and the brand purity is here after all these years, especially because I'm walking around the offices and as I'm looking how the office is set up, what the environment is around you, how the employees interact either with me or I see them interact with each other. That general vibe is all there. I mean, there's certainly a sense of purpose and intelligence, no doubt about it. But there's this kind of just we're having fun vibe going on.
Yeah, and it's something that you can't just make happen overnight. I mean, you really have to. Any culture is built, whether we're talking about civilizations the last hundreds of years, or we're talking about a corporate culture, or at a university. A lot of us can look back to our colleges and remember something unique that felt cultural. But I think, especially here at The Fool, we've just kind of hired who you hire, who you fire, who you promote, the cliche runs. That says a lot about your culture. That is your culture. Right. So we started by just hiring our friends from college. They're the only ones we could afford to hire initially. We couldn't take out wanted ads in the Washington Post, which is how you hired 25 years ago. These days, we wouldn't have been able to afford a big LinkedIn package. So we just started hiring our friends. And if you're going to do that, then you're going to create a culture probably by necessity, which is fun.
Right.
Because you're not going to say things like you need to be here at 9 o'clock and you have to stay till 5, or we're going to count your vacation days, or all those things the other corporations do. When we started, we would never have done that to our college friends. And so we've just kind of kept that vibe going.
You guys have won some awards around being one of the best companies to work for, haven't you?
We have. And I credit my brother, number one. He's our CEO. And Tom has always had, Tom was a great summer camp counselor. He's like one of those guys that if you went to a summer camp, we went to one in New England, you'd love to have him be your counselor. And that love of kind of a collegial atmosphere, whether it's summer camp or college, that feel, he's always done just a great job kind of projecting that. And then I guess just, from our name that we chose intentionally, but then right down through to the business of what we do every day, Patrick, which is that we try to help the world invest better. It's a world that doesn't understand investing. The word invest is largely misunderstood. We can talk about that maybe a little bit later, but so much of our work is almost try to peel back the layers of complexity that people have added to money that have caused them not to see the truth or what they should be doing. And so a lot of our job is just to kind of get people right back in touch with, hey, you're a human, I'm a human, we can figure this thing out, especially using the internet together, we can become better at money together. So I think I'm starting to rant or left your actual question, but it's because I love talking about our purpose and what we do.
You didn't leave it at all, and it actually leads to another question, which is, so you started with a newsletter, and and I think you said what the intent is having your parents' friends kind of understand this a little bit better, right? And have some fun around it.
That's true.
What were the other milestones in the journey that started to build out this very large organization?
Yeah. So I think the first one I'll identify is just that we did an April Fool's joke because we were the Motley Fool, and we did it online, which back then was like a new thing. These days, every corporation has its April Fool's joke annually every year. It's like not even a fun day anymore because everybody's making the. But back then, nobody was doing it, and the internet, well, really, the internet didn't exist. The World Wide Web, that phrase wasn't being used back in AOL 1993-4. And so we played a joke hyping a penny stock that didn't exist. You started to see people are pumping and dumping, and people are using this medium to cause others to buy bad penny stocks. And they're literally selling their own shares to the people they're getting to buy the stock and then leaving them to dry with these penny stocks. So we basically parodied that and got the attention of the Wall Street Journal and Forbes magazine, each of which wrote a little article on what the Motley Fool had done on Prodigy, which I know we're about the same age. So you remember back in the day, Prodigy? Not a big brand anymore. AOL's not as big a brand anymore, but back in those days, they were big dogs. And so that was number one, is that we got the attention of the press for what we were doing online, having fun with the medium, and trying to make a really important financial point, which is don't buy penny stocks and don't get involved in others' pump and dump schemes. AOL said, hey, you guys should open up the Motley Fool on AOL. That's number two. That was August 4th of 1994. So it's 24 years later now, but we started the newsletter 1 year before, so the Motley Fool is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. But that was number two, debuting online, keyword fool. Getting up on the AOL main screen back in the day, that was really big. We had lots of people clicking through, what is this jester, who are these people? And so we had a lot of attention. And then we had a great first month or so, and the New Yorker wrote us up in the Talk of the Town section and said there's this cool new thing on AOL called the Motley Fool. And that triggered calls from Simon & Schuster, from literary agents, hey, there's a book here. And all of a sudden, we started realizing, two bros, we had money to hire a third person and a fourth, and we could become a company. So we very much did not start as a company. We were not entrepreneurs. We didn't think of it that way, but
Right.
all of a sudden we realized this is going to become something.
So now this starts to build and builds momentum. And at that point, it was information-based for the most part, right? Just giving out advice as you saw it. There was no product or service that you were selling other than that.
In retrospect, I wish we'd had a product. You're right.
Yeah.
We wrote our first book, Simon Schuster, and we basically just said, hey, go to keyword fool on AOL.
Yeah.
Now, it was kind of a product in that back in those days we paid, you remember this? Connect fees, remember?
Oh, yes.
$4 an hour?
Yes.
So if you came to the Motley Fool keyword fool on AOL, we'd get 10% of that.
Ah.
So if you're paying AOL $3.50 an hour, we were getting 35 cents if you spent an hour. So our first book, which tried to help America think smarter about the stock market, ultimately didn't have any product or anything that we could really sell other than, hey, go to our site. All of a sudden, 2 years later, AOL goes free.
Right.
Going to our site isn't even, now we're just trying to get money on ads, which
Right.
is how the Motley Fool transitioned its business during a golden age for AOL where all of a sudden it got cheap to get online, finally. But we ended up in really bad trouble after 2001, which was such a horrible year for our nation, for the stock market, which closed a few days, some buildings fell. It was just a horrible year. So we had a lot of layoffs and we had to shift our business model. And we went from an free ad-supported site to a subscription-based business, which is how we'd started 7 years before for our parents' friends. And
Interesting.
now 25 years later, that's how we butter our bread. We're a subscription business.
I'm reading from your energy and enthusiasm. This is still as fun today or more fun than it ever has been after 25 years?
It is more fun today than it ever has been. I mean, there are pleasures that I'll never get back. For
Yeah.
example, the very first time the Wall Street Journal ever printed the phrase "the Motley Fool" seriously, I mean, I was on the floor. I was to think that it was a newsletter for our parents' friends, people, and we called it the Motley Fool. And look, they've just legitimized this. It's the Motley Fool. It says that, so I can never get that back, right? Other experiences like that. Having supper with Barbara Streisand as she's talking about how she loves the Motley Fool and is day trading eBay, which is an earlier stage of Barbara Streisand existing. Like just experiences that I could never have imagined just a year or two before that when I was just operating from a small apartment in Charlottesville, Virginia as my wife went through grad school. I couldn't believe what had happened. So I love all that. We were on the cover of Fortune magazine. When I go back to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, which is where I graduated university, and I say, if I could see a video of myself right now with a Fool cap on giving a talk to the business school when I was an undergrad studying English, I'd be like, what has happened to me that I'm talking about stocks with a jester cap on from the business school? So I can never get those moments back. But the truth is that we're operating at just a larger base today and reaching more people, and now globally, we just have more capabilities, more possibilities, and that's what's most fun. So I can say, I sure hope Tom's having more fun than he ever has before. I am. I think many of our employees are. I'll never speak for anybody but myself, but I'm having a lot of fun, and I think our members are too. And when the stock market's as strong as it has been, you can imagine that that's going to be fun too for our business, always will be.
Sure.